Welcome to Record-ology.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Okay, today we're going to look at another record we got in that recent haul from the antique store. This one was also $1. I see, it's a 45. Not really a 45. It's actually a 78. But when I see colored vinyl and it's $1 or pretty much any price that's reasonable, I go for it. And as you can see there, kid record, $1. I'm in. So let's open it up and see what we got. Plus, this wrapper is sort of reflective and therefore hard to see the actual record. Although I have to hand it to these guys for actually using a wrapper of some sort instead of just putting the freaking, sticker right on the record like they did with that one from yesterday. So this, as you can tell, look at how many spindle scrapes there are around that hole. Carved right through the label there. And the shade of the playing surface being that sort of muted, pasty look. Oh my gosh, look at this. This thing is worn. I mean, look how light that is. That should be the same color as the runout groove area. It's like a pasty, scraped, dry, although I don't expect it to be wet. You know what I mean? It's worn to high heaven. If you look at it from a distance, you can see the side as well. But this is an interesting record. Golden records, I love when they're actually golden. This is a 1950s era record. Somebody pointed out, we were talking yesterday, I was trying to think about the composition of the material of that record yesterday. I speculated it could possibly be either a resin or styrene. People told me they were pretty sure it was styrene. They said a lot of the colored records from that era were. So this might be styrene as well. Although I think it odd, and surely this is 78 RPM, by the way. I think it's odd they would use a 78 RPM record with styrene because the implication is a 78 RPM record, would be played on like a children's toy phonograph, and those things tracked heavy, and that's probably why this is so destroyed. So I'm kind of surprised they would make them out of styrene. But let's take a look at the label here. A couple interesting mysteries. And when you have a record, it is sort of like a little bit of CSI work. And I love this. I love it. Sometimes you can find info on Discogs. Sometimes you got to do a little thorough search. Discogs doesn't know about this record. So we are led to the other things that we know. We know that by the type of record and some of the artists on this, it is most assuredly 1950s. And that is about it. Mitch Miller, does that name ring a bell? This guy? Mr. Columbia Records. Why was he Mr. Columbia Records? Well, he was the artist and repertoire man for Columbia Records and basically had a major say. Some people have told me that he pretty much banned rock and roll from that label as long as he could and was not friendly in doing so. However, the interview seems so kindly in the interviews, but people told me that's not necessarily the case. But to me, he just seems like a kindly guy, and I like the music, whatever. Let me live in my ignorance. But before he did that, he provided the music to a lot of these children's records of the 1950s. Now, I'm a little confused by the Sandpipers on there, because I researched the Sandpipers. I had heard of those guys before, and I'm sure you guys will tell me all about it. But the Sandpipers were like a 60s folk group. In fact, those guys that were in that band were born in the 40s. So unless they were starting really young, at like age 10 or 12 and, doing these, I don't understand. Maybe there's another group by that name. On this side, Jack Arthur, the Sandpiper Singers. And anyway, so let's get to listening. We're going to use the Crosley Collegiate today. I love this record player. It's a great little unit. It is discontinued now, unfortunately. And it's essentially inspired by the classroom players like the one we used yesterday. It's got adjustable counterbalance, magnetic cartridge. It's 3 speeds. I'm going to be using a micro groove, even though this is assuredly a wide groove record, but that's okay. But anyway, let's go ahead and give it a listen. We should be able to listen to these ones all the way through, I'm hoping. So here we go. Super scratched, super ripped up, but enjoyed and loved by its original owner. Yeah, I just had the auto stop engaged, so it thought it was reading. It thought it was at the end of the record. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. There's definitely some life deep in those grooves. They are really, really worn down, but amazing that this innate piece of plastic, whatever kind of plastic it is, contains the sound information that we just heard. It still blows my mind. The basics of a vinyl record still blows my mind. We're going to listen to the other side too. Also, it's kind of an interesting thing. Obviously, you're dragging a diamond or a sapphire, in this case a diamond, through a plastic groove. It's going to wear down. I mean, like any analog media, shouldn't say any, because a laser disc technically is being read by a laser, therefore it's not wearing it, but it's still an analog. Anyway, at least for the video part's analog, the sound is digital, but I digress. For the most part, analog media, like a tape head or a record needle, is wearing down, wearing down, wearing down. It's got a finite amount of plays, amount of life, and eventually the music just fades away. The sound fades away into the noise. A little minute bit, every single time you play that record, the signal to noise ratio will decrease. The sound will get buried eventually into that noise. So it's interesting. It's got a few plays left, maybe just a few, but amazing, amazing. Let's listen to the other side.
When in the morning, without a warning, time and pulls the window shade. There's no sign of what brigade was ever out on parade.
I wanted to make sure you heard those last two notes. Boy, this thing is it's like a bucking bronco riding those really rough grooves. Boy, howdy, is that an interesting record, though. So, Parade of the Wooden Soldiers. I like that song, actually. That was on Harry Connick Jr.'s first Christmas album, When My Heart Finds Christmas. I love that album so very much, so that makes me think of that. Interesting, obviously, this predates that version by decades and decades. Isn't it often the very first version of something you heard that becomes your favorite? I've also found that to be the case. People always say, oh, the book is better than the movie. Well, to me, it's kind of whatever I saw. If I was the book I read first or the movie, whatever, that's my baseline. You know what I mean? So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. A very interesting look at a very interesting record. Last couple of nights, man, we've had some really interesting records to look at, and I've got a ton of them. So we've got more records to review. We've got record players to review, equipment reviews, all kinds of demonstrations, all kinds of cool content in general coming your way that I am so excited to share with you. And thank you so very much for being along for the journey. Give me a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind, or a thumbs down. Give me a thumb something, and I would appreciate that. Sharing it out if you enjoyed this video, tell your friends about it, and then also hit subscribe if you haven't done so. If you could do that, I would really, really appreciate it. Also, comment down below, because I need your help identifying which sandpipers were on this, although it sounds like it could have been children's singers. So maybe it really was the founding members of the Sandpipers. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same people or not. And then also, if you can date this record, I would be impressed. I couldn't find it. I spent like 5 minutes looking for it online. I could not find an exact date. So if you can, that would be cool. And then ultimately, let me know if you've ever found any of these golden records, if you like to collect them, or if you would like to find them in the wild. So they're out there. And like you can attest, $1 for this one. You can find interesting historic records for pennies on the dollar. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for now. Happy record hunting. We will see you tomorrow.